Hey, everybody, welcome to...
Hello.
Hello? I was just starting. Would you like to start?
No, go ahead, announcer.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Friday episode of Total Health Live. This is number 60. Life begins at 60. And I am Dr. Christopher Vogelman, the carefree, non-shaven version. I like to test my beard every 5 years or so to see how much gray there is in it. And my wife says I look like Mark Hamill now, so I'm going to keep that as my positive for the time being.
There you go. You look like, what's his name?
Like, what's his name? So, and with me, as always, is the lovely, talented, noted nutritionist to the stars.
Yes, hello. I live with a bearded one, actually. Oh. So I was, 2 weeks gone, and look at you. You've.
I'm gonna get. Well, no. This is only 1 week worth. That's what's funny. Apparently, I'm a hairy beast. So.
Yeah, my husband blinks, and he grows an inch of hair on his face. So I've been trying to angle my beautiful roses and keep them out.
Out of reach.
Out of reach. Because we had a little bit of an accident, and it's so hard. There they go. There you are. Right there in that small little space by my calendar over there. Anyway, it's been 2 weeks, and I have been dealing. Well, I was at a seminar last week, which was really fun, but hard to completely devote myself to it. But So, how have you been besides growing this?
I'm fuzzy.
Changing into Mark Hamill.
Fuzzy Wuzzy was a Cairo. Fuzzy Wuzzy was also in the past a pyro. I used to love setting fires when I was a kid.
Oh,
I'm not going to set fire to my. I'm not going to set fire to my unshaven.
You know what? We will escort you out of California if that is the case.
Hey, if it's contained, that's why I love barbecues.
There's no contained. There
is a contained within a barbecue. I have done it many times. So.
Barbecue's fine, but pyromania is not so good.
Well, pyromania, if it's satisfied by lighting the grill.
And it's so interesting because I was looking for my paddles, these paddles, and they were in a drawer. And look what I found. Matches.
Well, there you go. Thanks.
I almost pulled those out before you
Send them my way. Send them my way.
Yeah, it was sort of like I was sort of psyching into what you were about to say. Yeah. So, COVID news.
I got the COVID news.
I have some interesting COVID news.
You do?
COVID related news. And it has to do, and I'm going to use this forum for public outcry, because I will continue this social media public outcry after this. But I have been dealing with a crisis with my husband's transportation to his dialysis, his life and death dialysis treatments.
Life and death.
It was a dial-a-ride. They were helping him for 6 years, and overnight they decided not to do that, which is all sorts of things. I don't want to go into it right now, but finding replacement transportation is beyond a nightmare. And for something so critical, it is mind-boggling and extremely, extremely stressful. Half of the transportation companies are out of business because of COVID. And if you want to have an aide go with the particular person, which is a requirement now, it's hard to find people who are in the caregiving field right now because nobody's working, and a lot of people are actually collecting unemployment. And so it's really difficult to find people to work in this field. So these are two impacts. I mean, last year it was not like that at all. I mean, this is a health crisis in a pandemic, and these are two very, very critical, especially the first one, transportation for a dialysis patient. Critical. And nobody really knows until they're in this position. And I don't think many people have been in the position that I have been. And if you have, please share. Let's create our own forum about this. But things need to change. at a federal as well as municipal and statewide basis, because this is emergency. It's an emergency service, really, that is required. I mean, it's considered, actually, a new term that I've just learned. It's called non-emergency medical transport. But if there's no transportation, it's an emergency. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know that this is an impact. This is something that COVID has caused an impact or impacted this particular area of life for me personally, and probably many others around the country.
So, but transportation wasn't an issue last year?
No, transportation was not. Well, I mean, we had a provider. And they decided overnight to not provide service, which is inhumane. But
well, yeah, it's the challenge is that healthcare in the United States is based upon private businesses, and if a private transportation company who is contracted with someone goes out of business or can't find the drivers or just decides to fold, unless a government agency steps in, that's a real challenge. I mean,
the government agencies are not doing anything. That's the thing too. They're not. They had one provider who had one driver for their entire company. One driver who was unqualified. But the regular service that we had decided not to, and they have plenty of drivers and plenty of vehicles, but they decided not to transport my husband after 6 years of transporting him overnight. No, and this is my biggest complaint: no advance notice.
Mm-hmm.
No advance notice for us to, research, find an alternative form of transportation, find somebody that might be able to ride with him, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to have that kind of thing. As a healthcare professional, I can tell you that when I left my practice in DC, I had to provide at least 3 names of other doctors in advance of my departure in order to comply with the ethics and the other, legal requirements.
And that's for chiropractic. That's not even life and death treatment. So that's required for your profession.
Depending on the circumstances.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of any other treatment that is so critical. Even chemotherapy isn't as critical. It can wait a day or two. Dialysis can't.
Well, did the majority of dialysis patients, don't they actually get transportation by relatives or friends or others? I think the medical transportation field, because I know a couple of patients who are on dialysis and they don't drive themselves, but usually they have other people to drive them. But if you can't amble, you're not ambulatory, that becomes a real challenge.
Yeah, and that was the case initially, and so if a person can transfer into a vehicle, that's fine. But people progressively, decline, and so it's not even an elder issue; it's a medical issue. Mm-hmm. And the interesting point is that he has not been any different in the last year as far as his capability. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I mean, this is a very big issue, and I plan to, as soon as I have enough energy.
As soon as you get off this call.
Well, no, I have been. I mean, it's been up to this call and after this call. It's been, a 24-hour concern. But I have these stop gaps that are, helping me day by day, but I have to keep, fighting. And people who are taking care of other people should not have to be fighting every day. They shouldn't have to be fighting for what's needed to take care of this particular ill person or not handicapped, but disabled person. People shouldn't have to fight. Do you agree?
I think but that's the nature of the weird private public partnership that exists within healthcare.
Yeah, and it's acceptable here in this country.
Yeah, you want other countries, this wouldn't pass muster. You probably.
And I grew up in that other country, that other type of country.
The other country.
The other type of country, and I've mentioned it to people here, and they say, "Well, why don't you go back?"
Why don't you go back?
Which is very rude, but I'm
hoping these weren't the drivers that were saying that.
I don't know what they're saying under their breath, but
under their masks.
But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know how long it's going to take to change, and if it ever will change. But I think something like this, I'll put my banner up for this one for now, and hopefully, I just want to. If anyone watching this is a caregiver to a loved one, know that there is a space for you, and please contact me, email me, call me, and I'd like to share every resource that I have available, and maybe guide you through this very, very stressful and sometimes treacherous territory.
It's a medical maze.
And it's amazingly a mess.
An amazingly messy maze.
Amazingly messy maze. Willie Mays says that.
Billy Mays has departed.
Willie Mays.
I think he departed about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
There was Willie Mays. Yes.
So I saw a headline today. I think it was 699 or 933 people with vaccines had COVID. And I thought, wow, well, that's an interesting headline, considering the vaccine wasn't intended to stop COVID. It was just intended to lessen the symptoms. So, I'm curious about this headline, why it's such a big deal, really.
Well, I mean, vaccines.
933 test positive for COVID after vaccinated. 12 died. So I guess 12 died.
Yeah, but vaccinations aren't 100%. Vaccinations are never 100%.
That is 12% of those who got it. 12%. That's a pretty high.
No. But that's 12% of everyone who was vaccinated.
No, it's 12% of the 933 people.
That's really a small number. Because of the 935, you're taking a subset of a subset.
But it's 933 people. I mean,
out of how many vaccinated people?
Let's not talk statistics here. I'm not trying to discount that. What I'm trying to say is that this is no surprise. This is no surprise to me. Is it to you?
It doesn't surprise me at all, because even at its very best, the Pfizer vaccine was 94% effective. So if you gave it to 100 people, 4 of them would likely get COVID.
And this is 12% died, though. This is 933 got it.
But 933 over what denominator? That's what.
Well, we don't know. That could be just a day.
Well, unless you have more information, I don't know that it actually.
Well, there is more information. There is more information. So I don't want to take the time to. I'm interested and curious about your take on this as the defender of statistics.
I'm not the defender. I mean, I have never been vaccinated in my life, but I think that playing with using numbers to say, oh, look how horrible this is. It's just like the same thing when you look at the news. The evening news tells you all the terrible things that have happened, the fires, the murders, all the deaths, all the other things like that. And nobody reports all the good stuff or all the things that are effective.
Of course not. I mean, that's why we're here, to spread some good stuff too. We sort of talk about this stuff. But my point is that was a headline.
Oh,
and so that was a headline. So such breakthrough cases are extremely rare, blah, blah, blah. Oh, the Lakers are offering a chance to win season's tickets. I love these news.
Well, why don't you get those tickets and then you can.
I love these news reports. Oh, 12% die, or 12 die, 900. Oh, and you can get Lakers tickets too. I mean, it's like.
Why don't you die at the Lakers this season? Over at the
So
Staples Center.
what about a new phenomenon? Non-vaccinating, non-vaxxing or non-vaccination shaming. Have you heard that one?
No.
Oh, yeah, it's happening.
Well, I think that, it's inevitable that human beings who are under a great deal of stress for an extended period of time are going to express their emotional, I was going to say instability, but I'll change that to emotional volatility in ways that create some degree of satisfaction for them.
Well, I think what it is, it's a feeling of like, I've done the vaccination, you should too. I feel safer, and I want you to feel safer, and then we'll all feel safer. So I think it's a little bit of
well, intentional, and so it depends on the intention. I do think there's no question that vaccines actually do work. You look at polio, you look at a number of other different things. So the challenge has always been in my family that my dad just didn't like the whole concept of vaccinations. And so, even when we had smallpox, he would wipe the smallpox vaccine. He wiped off all the vaccine stuff from our shoulders back in the 60s as soon as we got in the car. Whereas my grandmother didn't have that situation. And as a result, she fell terribly ill to the smallpox vaccine.
right. We
Talked about this before.
Yeah,
And there are those who believe that, for example, that the thimerosal, that mercury and other types of preservatives that are found in vaccination preparations result in disturbing all kinds of things in the human body. So it's very controversial, but at the same time, though, then you have to say, what happens if nobody gets vaccinated and we just let the virus run its natural course? And more than likely, you would have had 2 to 3 million, maybe even as high as 4 million people die in the United States. So then people have to ask, what's a human life worth? Are people expendable? And then, is that the way we want to go? But even in 1918, they used preventative measures. There was social distancing and masks. I mean, they were smart enough to use masks at that time. But there were anti-mask movements then too.
Yeah, it's I mean, those things that you mentioned about now I can't remember what you mentioned, but it was about I'm under so much stress I can't even think straight right now.
Should we wait like another month to do another Total Health Live?
Let's do another month. No,
once a month.
So yeah, I mean, so you mentioned about people, this so many have died, and it could have been so many more if we would have just let it run its course. Well, there's still people dying, so we don't know the end result. We don't know the end numbers at the end of all this, what those numbers will be. And why I bring this up is it's like this, you should get the vaccine and that's what you should do. And it's this sort of pointing of fingers, and it's sort of like almost like an attack. Why aren't you getting it? Why, rather than letting people make a decision. I think it's only 39% of the population in California have gotten the vaccine so far. Now that includes every age group, but that is 39%.
Yeah, it includes newborns.
Yeah, it includes everybody, but it's still 61% that have not had the vaccine. So, and why would you give a vaccine to a newborn? I mean, that was the whole MMR, the measles, mumps, and rubella concern, that they were getting those vaccines way too early before their immune systems were even developed enough to accommodate that kind of vaccination. So I hope the newborns are not on the table for getting a COVID vaccine.
On the table sounds a little hostile.
On the changing table.
The changing table. I hope they're on the changing table, because that's going to be pretty stanky over time.
Yes. They will probably be on the changing table, but not on the COVID table. It's COVID. Yeah. So, I mean, there's constantly information, and I just bring up some of these personal things today that most people will never have to deal with. Quite frankly, most people will never have to deal with. the transportation issue with dialysis and that kind of thing. But it's a very acute for me, and it can be for other people. And most of the population, will never know these things happen. And so we want your sympathy. We want your.
I think I'd rather have empathy than sympathy.
Empathy, sympathy, whatever if funding dollars, I don't know, or
you want to GoFundMe for a new transportation company. You could found a transportation company.
Pardon me?
You could found your own.
I know I could found in my spare time. I could, or I could just, I mean, we've been looking at options of, a nonprofit for this, for some part of what we're talking about. And, actually having a transport van accessible to other people, not just for us, but accessible to other people. And then you've got all the licensing that is involved in that. So it's a little more complicated than just buying a new vehicle.
How do the Amish do it? It's like they do a barn raising and nobody seems to apply for permits. So.
The thing is, there's communities, the Amish community is a community, whereas most of us are very individualistic. We live, doing it all ourselves, which is impossible. It's impossible. And even if you do have family around, family may not be that engaged, that involved. So, so it's... It is an interesting thing. This has definitely been impacted by COVID for sure. And hopefully things will turn around and new transportation companies will come back to work, or as you said, like maybe we'll found one. Would you like to be a driver, Christopher?
It's a long commute. Depending on traffic, it's going to take me probably 3 hours to get to you. So,
yeah, and then 3 hours in LA traffic.
That's 3 hours. That's 3 hours in good LA traffic. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, but there are co-ops and informal things that people do that aren't required. So if you ask your friend, "Hey, can you give me a ride?" that doesn't require a license. And so if you have people who, I mean, I think it's a question of how you organize it. I think, it could even be organized under a religious group. Yeah. And if it was under a religious group, there's a lot more leeway. So maybe you can become the messianic leader of a new health-oriented, the Church of the Total Health.
The Church of the
Church of Total Health.
The Church of Critical Transportation.
The Church of Total Health.
Subtitled.
During my great tax adventure of Monday, I often refer to it as going to worship at Our Lady of the Holy Rebate. So,
yes, the Holy Rebate. Did you get one?
Surprisingly, yes, because some of the services were down in 2020. So.
Yes, some of the services were down, and some of the new services are now down. So surprising things.
It's change. It's an opportunity for growth.
Yeah. Well, if it wasn't a crisis, it would be more interesting. But
no, if there was no contrast in life, it would be boring. So
yeah, that's sort of okay. Moving on. Let's. I think we had.
Do you have some contrast for me?
I think we had some questions left over from our last.
Hey, before you get to those questions, I was curious about. So you said it was 2 weeks ago. You said that COVID in Italy was at the same levels as the fall of 2019. I got a private message from one of my friends, one of my colleagues within the world of digital marketing, who mentioned to me, she's in Toronto, and she says we're still on lockdown. It's very interesting.
Yeah, Canada, at some point, Canada actually became worse than the U.S. I mean, my family...
Or better than the U.S., depending on your perspective.
You think lockdown's better? No, worse. I mean, lockdown indicates there's more cases, right? So
not necessarily. It means that there's a certain number of cases, and they want to make sure that case diminishes enough before they open up everything like the wild west. So.
No, it was like the per capita was higher at some point in Canada. In fact, you'd see these graphs, and the U.S. was going down, and Canada, like, I don't know, can't get too right, but Canada was overtaking the number of cases in this particular graph. photograph. This was a couple of weeks ago that I saw that. And of course, I get information all the time from my family. Things are opening up, certainly in different parts, just as in this country, different parts of the country are more open than others. So I went to Trader Joe's for the first time in 14 months yesterday. And
Yay
it was
for you.
so much fun. And there was hardly
I've been there
anybody
so
there.
many. I've been there so many times. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, I've been, people have been going for me, but I tell you, there was hardly anybody there, and it was so much fun. It was like Christmas. I'd been dreaming about it.
Party on, Monica. Party on. Trader Joe's.
It was really a lot of fun. And so.
Did you get samples? They're not doing samples, are they?
They're not doing samples.
See, Costco.
But I kept telling everyone. I kept telling everyone in the store, I haven't been here for 14 months. I haven't been here for 14 months. Like it was like a candy store, you know.
Hopefully, some of those products haven't expired on the shelf during those 14 months.
No, it's very busy. I mean, if you've been to Trader Joe's, you know that they normally have lineups. And I told myself I wouldn't go in if there was a lineup, but it's kind of nice not having to go all the time, really. I mean, it becomes less of a drudge if you go once in a while. But yeah, so I really enjoyed myself. So that was fun.
I do have a Whole Foods order that's arriving before 2:00 allegedly. So I might have to leave you to get that. Since I'm one of the only ones.
I used Instacart a couple of times in the last year, and it's been fine. You know, it's been fine.
I normally do go now. I feel far more secure in going to. I've been to Mexican markets a couple times. I've been to local stores here. By and large, I mean, people are fairly respectful. I think they're tired of being thrown out of stores for not wearing masks. So they tend not to be entering the store. Mask free.
Yeah, and I know that Costco and Trader Joe's are using the honor system, so you won't need a vaccination card. But I'm not.
Yeah, but so many people are lying. They're lying and lying. I see them on the streets,
right.
On the streets of Coronado and Orange Avenue, and you know darn well these people have not been vaccinated just by their
vaccination card. Do they are they making fake vaccination cards? Because some retailers were talking about using these vaccination cards.
They're doing it. People were selling them on eBay and other places.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you know.
Which, I mean, you know, so here's the thing. You buy a fake vaccination card and it allows you to go into stores. You are the one who catches COVID, and then you have to explain to your doctor why you're holding a vaccination card and you're in the ER getting treatment for COVID. And then maybe you spread it to a few other family members, including Grandpa Joe and Aunt Edna. And so you, ye of the fake vaccination card, have managed to become another vector, another COVID spreader. So, I mean, it's kind of bizarre to me that people would even think that this is so cool and so wonderful.
Yeah, well, you know, the term of being cool is sort of like very...
Maybe Joe Cool.
Well,
I don't know.
People don't know what cool is anymore. I mean, they think the bizarrest thing is cool. But yeah, I mean, of course, the biggest dream, of course, is to not have to wear masks and cases diminish to like one or two.
You're doing a lot of clapping. Are you concerned about the
I'm so excited. Maybe I'll just use my silent
Trader
clapper
Joe's that did it to you.
I'll use my silent clapper instead.
Clap on, clap off.
I got new ones in my seminar my conference last week. I got new little ones, but I have I have a do not disturb sign on my door. But I mean, wouldn't that be nice to not have to wear masks and a case happens here and there? And I mean, that would be good.
Wouldn't it be nice if we were maskless? Oh man, people did not come for this. All right, so speaking of doo-doo,
what have we got here?
Did we finish off with Steve
I
from San
think
Antonio?
it was Steve from San Antonio.
Steve, my sister sent me a picture yesterday of her United Airlines pass from Chicago, and she was on her way to San Antonio last night, which I find funny that Steve is asking this question from San Antonio.
Oh, I see.
She's
That's
meeting up.
where it was going.
She's meeting up my niece. I'm excited because she's meeting my niece.
And
She's at
maybe she's going to meet someone named Steve. And San
Steve. Hey,
Antonio. You
Steve,
never
are
know.
you single and ready to mingle? So
Yeah, there you go.
Steve from San Antonio is reporting to us. He says, my clothes fit better than they have in years. I'm one of those who actually lost weight during COVID, but I could still eat better. I still have big portions, and I still like having eat burgers. Oh, Steve, I think you really must. Yeah, having burgers. I still like having burgers, pasta, and pizza, and beer? Question mark. Oh, well, Steve, you're a man after my own heart. I mean, as far as the burgers go, I could even do without the bun, but I do like the burgers. The pasta and the pizza, less than I used to. The beer, I like a good dark beer once in a while. I had one yesterday, the fourth one in 2 months.
In the summer, I like something called Sculpin, which is a grapefruit.
Sculpin?
Yeah, it's
not Scalpin like the Native Americans used to do to the Apache.
Sculpin. I had it one time about 3 years ago. It was such a hot summer evening, and I was meeting friends for a live like it wasn't a concert, but it was a live music event. Well, it wasn't a really event. It was in a local pub, and it was
in the back alley of the pub.
It was in this little local pub, and it was a great band. And anyway, it was outside in a courtyard. It was great. And I had it, and I'll never forget. Not only was it so refreshing, and it had grapefruit in it, like a grapefruit. It had grapefruit. And it reminds me of that event because I had so much fun. So when it's really hot, I will be a good German, and I will have a beer.
Deutschland. Oh, yeah. So anyway, so do you have any advice for Steve, since he really seems to like his pasta and pizza and everything else?
Oh, yeah. So Steve,
I mean, he lost weight.
I would say, who knows how often you have those things. It's fine to have those things. Is it once in a while, or is it like, are you addicted? That's the question. Are you having it all the time? Do you feel like you can't stop? If you're having weight loss and you did pretty well during COVID, I suspect that probably you aren't eating those things all the time. And pasta can, this is the thing about pasta. We think it's just, noodles, and sauces, but it can be lots and lots and lots of vegetables with a little bit of noodles,
primavera,
and olive oil. Yeah, exactly.
And Popeye.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's actually, you have a little bit of a grain product. Again, if you're gluten sensitive, it might not be the best, but you can also get rice pasta. You can get a buckwheat pasta, all sorts of things. Corn pasta.
Tastes a little strange to me.
So nothing wrong with that. Pizza, that too can be a thin crust, and it can be homemade, and it can be loaded with vegetables. Mm-hmm. I have this favorite pizza I get from this place called Stonefire. There's about 5 or 6 in LA. And it's got avocado, basil.
Wait, they bake the avocado, or they put it on after?
No, it's baked. Yeah, it's baked too. So it's not cold. It's got basil, and it's got feta, and it's got, I don't know, maybe a few other things, but it's just basically a vegetable pizza. It's got garlic, and it's got onions. Yummy. Yummy. So good for you. So again, what's in those ingredients? How are they made? Are they full of vegetables as much as possible? That's a question.
Just stay away from the Riverwalk, Steve, because I've had a lot of fattening Mexican food there in San Antonio.
Yeah.
The goat was really good. I will say that.
I remember I was on the Riverwalk, and again, I keep talking about the heat because I'm not looking forward to the hot summer, but it was so hot. Not only was it so hot when I was there, it was the end of July Riverwalk, and it was, muggy too. It was like,
you get some Gulf moisture. Yeah. I used to live in Texas. So
98% humidity, and
probably 70, 80,
No, it was high. Well, it felt like 100%, but,
It'll feel like it if you're used to a Mediterranean climate. That's for sure.
Yeah, I grew up where I grew up. We had humid days too, so I felt it before, and I know the East Coast is more so, and I'm sure you felt that in DC as well when you lived there.
Many, many humid days, hot
Yes,
and humid.
many, many humid days. So I hope that helps, Steve. Give yourself a break. Try to have a balanced diet, and so good that you've lost weight. And when you talk about portion sizes are still large, that's all relative. I mean, large. Do you think they're large? Do you feel like they're large? People tell you they're large. What is your criteria?
Well, the other thing, I mean, Steve, you might be doing a lot of exercise too. And so
exactly.
a large portion, I mean, you may be burning off a lot of carbs, particularly if you eat, say more carbs in the morning hours and you're working out. It's very interesting. The other thing I would recommend too is if you can get, say, like the grass-fed beef, if you're having beef burgers, I don't know if it's turkey burgers, veggie burgers, or what, you just said burgers. And I actually personally, I think grass-fed tastes better, but that's just my personal preference.
Are they buffalo burgers or elk burgers?
Buffalo, elk burger.
Any kind of other kind of meat, or even
Except
veggie burgers.
Except Burger King.
Are they veggie burgers?
Well, what about the Impossible Burger?
Everyone I know sort of says that no. I mean, it's synthetic food.
Yeah, the interesting thing is I tried them, and actually everyone in our family tried them, and we all felt ill after them. So
there you go. There you go.
I'm like the canary in the burger coal mine.
It's the COVID burger.
No, this was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever they first came out. I mean, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah,
and I was impressed with. I mean, the taste was okay, but the impression that it gave me was it was indigestible, or it was not easy to digest. So
I used to have these really great burgers. I think they were from Whole Foods, and they were like, I don't know, tofu or seitan or something like that. And I used
Satanic
to love
burgers?
Seitan or Ten.
Oh, so not Satan.
Seitan, not Satan, seitan, which
Satan
is
burger.
a soy-based veggie burger, and they were delicious. I would put, alfalfa sprouts and all sorts of things. They were just delicious.
The black bean burgers are pretty good.
Those are good too.
Yeah, I was really surprised that I liked those better than the Impossible Burger, because I felt the Impossible Burger was impossible to eat.
It's impossible.
And digest. But that's the big trend. It's the big trend now, is plant-based foods that are synthesized. So
nothing wrong with plant-based, but
plant-based and with good taste.
Plant-based, good taste, and has some nutritional value.
It doesn't go to your waste.
Is not heavily processed.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing. All right, so Steve, I think we've beaten that dead horse burger. I think actually, in France they do eat horse, which repels most Americans.
I think they do that in other countries too.
They do, yeah, in North Africa and other places. Okay,
speaking of which,
speaking of horse burgers.
We have a new person working here, and he is from Zimbabwe. They eat giraffe and zebra, which we would probably think, oh, but they do. They eat whatever they can catch.
Whatever you can catch. I eat a giraffe, one bite at a time.
Yeah, I mean, it is nature. We have to live. And so do other creatures.
Well, see, in India, they are appalled that we North Americans consume cows. So.
Yes, they're sacred there.
The sacred cow. Hey, speaking of sacred cows, let's go to the next one. Oh, Denver. Dina from Denver. Oh, Dee. Dina from Denver. I used to live in Denver.
What does that have to do with cows?
Because Denver is a huge. I thought
the
cow palace.
I thought you were going there. I just wanted
the cow
to
palace.
Sure.
The Cow Palace in Denver is this huge auditorium, and that's where all the cattlemen used to come and parade their steers around. So that's. I mean, when I think Denver, I think beef.
Cows, beef. Where's the beef?
Where's the beef? It's in Denver. So Dina from Denver is asking. She says, I have a lot of pain in my body, and I've been using CBD products as well as smoking medical marijuana. Even though it helps a little, it knocks me out and I find myself binging on snacks more.
Mm.
Should I find another alternative to pain relief? My first answer is yes. So what's your take on it?
If you're having those symptoms, those reactions, absolutely.
Good Lord.
Snacking and getting knocked out? No.
If you're getting the munchies and you're getting knocked out, I mean, one of the things that we really like to do here in the household is to have a ginger turmeric tea that we make fresh in the mornings. Actually, my wife makes it. I make it rarely. Most of the time, I just take the used ginger and turmeric and pour more water in it and boil it again. And that's an anti-inflammatory that works exceedingly well. You just can't take too much of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps a lot, actually. Even though you say that the CBD and the medical marijuana help a little, I would suggest trying an anti-inflammatory tea.
Yeah, and there's some great creams that you can get. I
love Arnica. Arnica is really helpful.
Arnica's great. That helps with muscles more than anything.
Arnica creams on joints is really good too.
So. You know, a trail meal. Used to be.
Yeah.
Boron. Yeah, boron. Yeah, trail meal. Actually, trail meal is not boron. It's
another company.
It's Heal. HEEL. It's a German company. Biologischen Heilmittel. That's the name of the company. Anyway, it's not available over the counter anymore. It used to be, but it isn't anymore. I think it's
get it all the time. I used to give it to my patients. I
have some cream and some, but there are other homeopathics liquids like boron does make arnica. You can not only arnica cream, but also arnica.
This is something. If you can get a hold of this, Dina, back in 2003, I worked with a colleague, a friend of mine, Dr. Ken Singleton, up in he's a little bit north of Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And he paid a formulator, I think around $10,000 way back when, which was expensive for then, to create a broad spectrum homeopathic product that I helped him we named it. Helped him with a branding called Pain Shield. And it was a gel. It was in a gel. It was a base of it's a base of aloe vera with a wide range of homeopathic remedies in there, so that you didn't have to be all that specific in terms of diagnosing what type of pain it was, whether it was sharp or burning or achy or whatever type of pain. And that stuff was miraculous. I used to put that, and so it's called Pain Shield. I don't know if it's still available or not, but the only problem with Pain Shield was people would buy one bottle and never buy it again because it was that good and they needed so little of it.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
I don't know if he still markets it. I got it. I have to check. But when you're talking about pain, it just occurred to me, flashback to 18 years ago, to 2003, when we were marketing Pain Shield. That was a great product.
Yeah. And
now I feel like looking it up to see if he still offers it for sale.
Are some really great pain remedies. I mean, this is the pellets that you would use. It's an arnica. I mean, this is not arnica specifically, but this is what you could get. And they just white pellets. You put them under your tongue. Also liquid. You can also get liquid versions of it. There are combination types of homeopathics that would say simply something like pain relief or pain shield. Or you could get individual remedies such as an arnica specifically. So it depends on the kind of pain, ice, and it depends if it's chronic pain or acute pain. It sounds more like it's chronic pain, wouldn't you say, at this point?
At this point. I mean, because the other things you can do, if you do have episodes of acute pain, I still would find that ice works really well. 15
ice
minutes
is great.
Ice is nice. Rest is best. When you come to the office, please be dressed. I would tell my patients that.
I was having a little bit of back pain because I have a herniated disc, and whenever it sort of flares up, I'll put some heat on it, and that really helps a lot. So there's all sorts of things you can do. There's such a big craze, CBD, everything, CBD or marijuana products, but they may not be. I've purchased like probably 3 or 4 different things in the last couple of years, and none of them have worked. So, it's not for everyone. And there's also something called cannabinoid receptors in the body, which means, do you have a lot of them, or do you have a functional like some people don't? It will not. You won't even have a benefit if you have an impaired cannabinoid receptor, or if you don't have enough. I'm not sure what the mechanism is on that, but there's also that. So it's a very individual thing as well. And I think they're making marijuana products much stronger than they used to. Much stronger than recreational.
The issue is one of the content of THC versus the actual anti-inflammatory elements. So
I forgot it was THC, because I've gotten THC and CBD, and one is better for pain and one is more for relaxation, and I can never understand. I can't remember what it is. But
there's a simple nursery rhyme. It's ACBD. Oh my God! I mean, it's a dyslexic alphabet song. Is what that was. So,
ACDC.
ACBC. ACBD. All right. So I think we've reached the end of our broadcasting for today. Anything else you care to add in the wonderful world of transportation, consternation, and hopefully cures for constipation?
Just one more thing for Dina. Just listen to your body. If it's not bringing comfort, try something else. Just because it's a trend, just because everyone else is doing it, doesn't mean it's good for you, and doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Oh, and by the way, Dina, make sure you're getting enough sleep. Because sleep heals. It's one of the most important things you get. And there's evidence, there's a couple of studies out that show that people who get under 7 hours of sleep, by and large, have a 30% increase in cancer, diabetes, and a host of other degenerative conditions. So there are a few who can get by with 4 hours or 5 or 6 hours of sleep, but they are by far in the minority. And most of us spend more time on Netflix and screen time than we probably should. So get enough sleep.
I love my sleep. I love it.
Sleep is good.
I do.
Don't be creepy. Get unconscious when you're sleepy.
I don't know.
Maybe that's not.
I don't know. He's just someone I know.
He's just someone I know. Oh boy! All right, we'll be back again next week for episode 61, maybe, or next month. Next month. What day is that? No, I'm just wondering, because you said you needed time to.
No. We'll be doing a March 30, 28, whatever.
March 30th.
May.
There's the 33rd of August. Let's do
it then too, for sure. That'll be our 77th.
That's our 77th of the 33rd. All right, we will be back next week. If you have any other questions or comments, or you want us to talk about something in particular and you have not yet submitted your questions, please do at either coachingforhealth.com or here on the Book of Faces.
We will also talk about pre-Memorial Day tricks and to keep you healthy.
Tricks and treats
to keep you healthy over the Memorial Day weekend. It'll be better this year than last year.
Oh, and for those of you who follow Mama Maggie's Kitchen, the store is having a 25% off sale, including masks. So, we were concerned that mask wearing was going to disappear, so we decided to discount everything.
Yeah. So, get them while you can.
Get them when you can. They're embroidered and made by real Mexicans. All right, we'll be back next week. That's my commercial.
Bye.
Self-promotion.